All right, welcome back everyone to another edition of the RRAR interview series. Joining me today is a very special guest, Representative Erin Pare, who represents District 37 in the NC House. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So the first question, just talk a little bit about your background. One of the things that was appealing to me about you when I was reading up for this interview, and I'm sure it's appealing to voters, especially in this time, is that you're not a career politician. You chose to enter politics later in your career, I guess. So my question is, what compelled you to run for office, and why has it been so gratifying for you, if in fact that it has been gratifying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has been very gratifying for me to be in this position, mostly because you're in a unique position to be able to help people um, in a wide range of areas that really you probably don't anticipate when you're a candidate. And to me, that is the best part of this job, and a very special part of this job is to be able to, in some cases, solve big problems and change people's lives and improve people's lives in a meaningful way. So my background is I grew up in Northern Virginia, and I worked in government affairs and public policy post my master's degree at George Mason University. And I really enjoyed that work. I mostly worked in regulatory reform and business issues. And then after many years of doing that and being quite successful doing that, I met my husband, who was an active duty infantry officer with the United States Army and Army Ranger. And as many military spouses do, I sort of put my career on the back burner and supported the mission and started traveling all over the country at the behest of the Army. And that was back in 2006, which was the height of the wars. So doing all that, we ended up settling down in North Carolina, and he retired and we opened a business. And when you are a business owner, when you're a PTA president, when you're a mom of kids, when you're sitting on a town board, when you're starting a nonprofit in music education, which is what I did, I'm a violinist, that really helps put your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. And because you are able to interact with the community in that way, you're able to see where the successes are, where the challenges are. And that really led me to want to serve in public service so I could address some of those issues. And I think I've been successful in doing that.
No, that's an awesome background. And, first and foremost, on behalf of all of our members, thank you to your husband, but also to you and your family for your service. And it means a lot, especially nowadays and during that time for sure. But yeah, your background is, I think that's what we need, people that care about the community, people that want to make, like you said, make people's lives better. So, yeah, it's very noble and appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
I think, it's become evident that we're facing a housing crisis, not just in our area, but throughout the country. We believe that housing prices and interest rates have frankly gotten out of control. I mean, we're seeing interest rates get a little bit better, which is a good sign. Inventory becoming scarce. What's your assessment on the current housing crisis, and do you have an idea of how to fix some of these issues in our area? I won't ask you about the grand scheme of things throughout the country. Nobody has that answer, but what would you like to see improved more so in your district or in our area as a whole?
Right. Well, thank you for that question, because this is an important issue that I've been facing and working on since I was first elected back in 2020 and 2021. So Southern Lake County is a rapidly growing area, but it also has been able to attract a lot of economic development that's been very key to the economy, not just locally, but statewide. And so when you have economic development coming to mostly, Southern Lake, but also the key spot is western part in the Holly Springs area, where it's forming up to be one of the international hub of the bioscience industry. And that's bringing a lot of jobs here, which is great. And attracting a lot of recent graduates and students at nearby universities to work there, which is also great. but it also presents the challenge of, well, we need people to live here and we need updated infrastructure for these companies to operate, but also for all of these homes to be able to have access to clean water and updated roadways. So traffic improvements is really important as well. But the housing situation is kind of a practical thing for me in this area. If you're going to have people, lots of people working in this area, contributing to the economy, they're going to have a place to live. So I know that when we talk about growth and we talk about the challenges associated with growth, the reality is we need to have those rooftops being built so people can live close by to where they work. I think that the housing price issue is a supply and demand issue for the most part. And so when we talk about the availability of housing or the unavailability of housing, which might be jacking up those costs, we really need to look at demand and supply mostly so people have places to live, affordable places to live. And I think that you achieve that when there is more options available to people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important, from our perspective and from your answer, I'm sure you have a similar opinion, but in an ideal world, you'd want the workforce of your area to be able to live in your community. The fire, the police, the nurses, teachers, you want them to be able to stay in your community and be able to afford it. And frankly, that's not always the case around here. And if you want to live in Holly Springs, Fuquay, Apex, those areas, Cary, Raleigh, sometimes it's not possible for a teacher or a firefighter or a police officer, nurse to live in that area. So yeah, for sure. I wanted to circle back quickly, and maybe you have an opinion on this, but you talked about your husband being in the military and how that service is so incredible. And I think frankly, it's just sometimes it's overlooked that these heroes also, when they get out of the military, they're looking for houses. Do you have any opinion or idea of how we can help veterans own homes and just give them that opportunity for generational wealth through home ownership? I know, there's a lot of various ways that veterans can apply for loans and such, but we want to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. Do you have anything you'd like to say on that? Just wanted to give you an opportunity on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And first I wanted to say, I'm married to a disabled veteran. And so we own a business, but we have employees for our business that it's very hard to attract employees that can't go to work because they live too far away. So we need to be able to hire people so our business stays alive. And it's much easier to do that when they don't have a crazy commute to get to work. So to your point on that. But I think your other question, thank you for asking that, is you may have noticed that I did file a bill that passed the House and is in the Senate right now that would in fact help home ownership for veterans. And basically, it basically streamlines the process where there is a veteran benefit as far as property tax and being able to own a home, but you have to already have purchased your home in order to apply for that exemption. And so what this bill would do is it would sort of allow a veteran to take advantage or receive that benefit ahead of time. So the purchasing of that home would be more affordable to them. Of course, that will be great if there was some reform for veterans when it comes to their property taxes. But I think the passage of that bill is key as a lead up to some reform on property tax relief for veterans, just so they can take advantage of that benefit at the front end instead of having to wait until they go into the purchasing process and then apply for it. That way they can purchase more home and home ownership is more available to veterans. So that's just a policy change that I think makes a whole lot of sense.
No, that's great to know. And we recently, back in June, I believe, we did a veteran home ownership panel and try to educate our members, our realtors here at RRAR, so that they're more educated when they go to help a veteran to get them into a home that works for them, but also gives them the best opportunity to get a loan that will be approved and all that other stuff. So hearing that there is legislation right now, that'll be helpful to our members, that because there was a great reception from our members about that panel and they were very interested in it. So I think, having that additional information is great for them. You talked a little bit earlier about your district specifically, and obviously being a business owner in that district is will make this question, I think, sort of hit home even more. But your district is becoming so popular, I think, for people to not just in North Carolina, but throughout the country to be like, okay, let's relocate to North Carolina, but we're specifically going in your area. What is the appeal in your opinion, and just what makes the area so great? And if there's any plans for the future to handle the growth, what would you like to see?
Right. Well, I think that's a great question, by the way, and there's so many facets to that question. I think Southern Wake County is a great place to live, work, and raise a family for many reasons, but I think it's a key place to relocate to for several reasons. Number one, we have access to a lot of talent. Companies do that are coming here with the nearby universities. I think that the towns of Holly Springs and Fuquay-Varina, in particular, Apex, obviously Cary, have done a really good job at being forward thinking when it comes to growth and what they want to see their communities looking like down the line. I think that we still have a lot of work to do, though, when it comes to obviously critical infrastructure. We have some growing pains that are happening when it comes to water, supply of water, and the cost of that improvements and expansion is pretty high. So figuring out how the state can participate in alleviating some of the pain of the cost of those improvements is what I've been engaged in mostly pretty much the last couple of years, and will probably be engaged in as we move forward. And some of the growth and expansion when it comes to business development, and of course, just homes and population growth in my area continues. So water supply, increased expansion of clean drinking water, how that Sanford plant expansion and those lines that are going into Holly Springs and Fuquay-Varina, how that's going to continue. Transportation is a big deal, and I think that's a critical issue right now in Southern Wake County, is how do we upgrade existing roads that have been working for years and years and years and years to what we need now given population, but also building new roads so we don't have crisis traffic problems like in Northern Harnett through like Fuquay-Varina, Willow Spring up to Raleigh. A lot of people are commuting there. So I think all of this takes strategic thinking and a forward-thinking approach to how all of those pieces can be put together into a puzzle that works going into the future. And so I think that a lot of people are putting their heads together. I know for the Realtors Association, I was really happy to have them to the General Assembly several times to sit with municipalities, the home builders, and kind of talk about some of these zoning issues and other issues that directly impact some of those decision-making processes at the local level.
Yeah, and first off, we appreciate your time when we come down there for Legislative Day. It means a lot that you're always very generous with your time and give us great access to your ideas and what you're working on. It helps us sort of educate our membership. But yeah, you make a great point there. It's just, expansion looks easy, I think, on paper sometimes. And okay, more people, let's come here. But I think, prior to doing my work here with the realtors, I didn't think about, is there going to be enough water for people if we continue to get, things like that are obviously super important, but I think probably get overlooked by the general public at times. My final question for you today, and I appreciate your time. For us, advocacy is so important, and I think now more than ever for every association and people trying to get things through legislatively. But what do you say to our membership or to people that just want to make their voices heard? What's the best way to reach out to their representatives so that it's a cordial, beneficial type of conversation? What's the best way for people to get in touch and to actually have their voice heard?
Right. Thank you for that question. Well, I think that every member, at least they should be, is constituent driven. And it helps me a whole lot make decisions when I hear from people who come to me with facts and data to back up the advocacy that they're doing that day. So I can tell you that the issues that I tend to lean on more, because, you know, as a legislator, our spectrum is so broad when it comes to issues that we deal with all the time. But emails, calls to the office, and visits to the office, or even in district constituent meetings. I mean, I just got done with one this morning at a coffee shop with a constituent and want to talk to me about some of the
Oh,
issues
that's
going
awesome.
on with them.
Yeah.
So real life stories, issues that, you know, from a constituent or your members, even if they're not in my district, but can inform me and educate me about exactly what's going on from their perspective in my district, really helps me with a perspective on a problem and gives me, I think, a background that I can start working on it. So to me, just that constant communication is really valuable to me. And I'm always happy to leave my door open for visits and phone calls. Meetings in person to me are invaluable, to sit down like we're doing now and talking through problems and really giving me anecdotes that I can work with on helping solve that problem at the state level.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And offering that access to constituents is certainly what it should be all about. So that's great.
Right.
I don't want to take up more of your time. I could certainly talk to you for a long period of time. The work you're doing is great. Your ideas are, in my opinion, going to be helpful to the community and the constituents that you serve. So, you know, thank you for your service. Thank you for in this time in the world, being willing to be in the public specter and work for constituents. I think it's very noble work, and I'm sure your constituents appreciate it. So we want to say thank you for your time and for sitting down with me and having this virtual conversation. And we look forward to talking to you in the future. So thank you very much.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.